We need our weed. I don't wear it, but we need it.
Hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad.
This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single apology when my life was threatened. Thank you.
Hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad.
Hey, what's going on? Is this thing on? Is this thing working? Mic check. 1 2 1 2. Welcome to the show. We are back for an evening presentation. Let's call it that. came across actually an article which led me to an interview, which is dope because I don't want to read the whole article to you on the air. But I came across an article today, and disclaimer, the article is coming out of the UK. So it's a bunch of British chicks, but there is a huge overlap in British and American cultures, especially when it comes to things like progressivism and feminism. And so we're going to get to the bottom of why young women hate young men, apparently. Young women are very, very unhappy with young men, and I got to figure out why. But before we get to that, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you all for tuning in once again. I'm streaming on both channels tonight, Hoodservative and the Hoodservative Live. The Hoodservative Live has been demonetized temporarily. I'm fighting it out with the YouTube gods right now. We'll see what happens. They don't want to give me my money back, but you know, we'll see. I'll get it back eventually. But nonetheless, please make sure you tune in and subscribe to both channels. You never know where you might find me. And also, please, thank you so much for your support and your donations. Your super chats and your Venmos do go a long way, and I appreciate everything. That being said, let's get into the show tonight. Thank you all for tuning in.
Make it mandatory for women's body counts to be tattooed on them.
Oh, no. Make it mandatory?
No, stay with me here. It's a huge epidemic right now.
Excuse me, that is so like disrespectful.
Kane, ask Jennifer how many tattoos she would have.
Jennifer, how many tattoos would you have? This can also help us adjust women's rights based on number of bodies. 0 bodies, all normal rights. 1 body can't buy alcohol just so they don't make another bad decision.
See, this is the shit right here that makes women hate men, all right? Your rights will be determined by your official body count. Right? There's 2 whole levels of madness, right? Official body counts and a tattoo to signify it is crazy. And then you get rights determined upon your body count. I gotta tell you, the nigga cooking though. The nigga is cooking. He might be crazy, but he's a goddamn chef in the kitchen.
Make it mandatory for women's body counts to be tattooed on them.
Oh, no. Make it mandatory?
No, stay with me here. It's a huge epidemic right now.
Excuse me, that is so like disrespectful.
Kane, ask Jennifer how many tattoos she would have.
Jennifer, how many tattoos would you have? This can also help us adjust women's rights based on number of bodies. 0 bodies, all normal rights. 1 body can't buy alcohol just so they don't make another bad decision. 5 bodies can no longer vote. Hold on.
I would have cut that off at like 3, honestly. Because, you know, 1 body, 1 body should technically be a husband, right? So we gotta give an allowance. You gotta let him have an out for the 1 body. That's a husband, you know. We don't want to punish him for doing the right thing. But all your rights start to diminish after that first body. Is all I'm saying. By body number 3, you shouldn't even be voting for like the school board. All right. I don't even want you voting for the sheriff. None of that shit. None of that.
Hold on.
Oh shit.
10 bodies must legally register as a train station on IDs.
I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea.
Make it mandatory for women's body counts to be tattooed.
But these are the conversations the youngins are having online. I had no idea. You know, I genuinely believe the children are the future. Teach them the red pill and let them lead the way, you know?
To perform at the level that I perform at.
So
to perform at the level that I perform at.
So one of the things that you mentioned was that you were looking forward to, and correct me if I'm wrong, becoming manager or managing director of your law firm. And right now, from what I'm aware, through the person that gifted this to you, you are lead receptionist.
Yes. And it's not chasing a dream. There's a lot of boxes that need to be ticked. I know this man is out there. And it's just a matter of finding him.
You know, a couple of years ago, I started noticing women putting that makeup thing in like the corners of their eyes, like near their nose bridge. And I've never I've never, ever seen a good example of the makeup in the corner of the eye. Like, who the hell's telling them to do that shit?
7-figure salary.
Right.
Already said morning routine.
Yes.
That includes some sort of exercise
Mhm.
with group accountability,
Mhm.
as well as some sort of very high nutrition, I'm going to say smoothie. At least 5'10". I feel like that's generous. I need him to be obviously in very good shape.
Mhm.
I need him to.
You know, when we're talking about angry young women and women hating men and all that tonight, and I'm playing this clip because it occurred to me watching this, you know, one, the look on her face just tells me a lot. But two, I think when women create this like long prohibitive list of demands and requirements from a prospective love interest from a man, I think it is a sign of a type of female superiority complex where you automatically assume that the vast majority of men are just miles beneath you. And therefore, when you construct a man that is somehow desirable for you, you construct like an ubermensch, like a god, demigod superhero figure that no man could really live up to, because you have no real like understanding or respect for what a basic, regular, average man is. So you can only perceive of like superhero. Like her shit only gets wet for Superman. No Clark Kent's allowed.
Have a full head of hair.
Mhm.
That's very important to me.
Okay.
Be a Christian, but not take it too seriously. Like, I don't want to have to go to church every Sunday, but I don't want to get into fights over religion either.
Sure. Of course.
I want him to have an impeccable wardrobe. I want his suits to be tailored.
Mm-hmm.
I want him to look good in greens and blues because those are complementary to what I look good in. Absolutely no jewelry.
Okay.
Absolutely no tattoos.
Okay. Okay.
Never been married. No kids. I want to be his first wife. Our children are going to be his only children.
Mm-hmm.
No allergies. Has to like animals. I would prefer that he's a cat person, but if he's a dog person, that's okay. I think that's it.
Yeah.
How soon can you find the man that satisfies this checklist?
And then she put a time limit on it. Like, how soon can you find that man? Like, you're going to need a long time, all right? We're going to need a lot of time to find this one.
I don't give a fuck if white people go extinct. And the reason why is because I'm not a white supremacist. I don't think that white skin is inherently better because I'm not a fucking idiot. I get so many messages like this, like, oh my God, like you don't care about the white man. Like white men are so oppressed and you don't care if we go extinct. I don't care. Factor for me. What is a factor is the person's vibe and personality. Most of the white men that I've encountered have been incredibly repulsive, racist, or disgusting, especially in small towns. It's not important to me to marry a white man to pass on my white genes. If I choose to have children and I have children with somebody with brown or black skin, the kid will still look like me. They will all share all of my same features. So honestly, I would probably
watching this video. Not that it was just this video, but it occurred to me a while ago that, especially when we're talking about the very aggressively liberal white women, I think one of the reasons why a lot of white liberal women are so like just in love with the browns and the blacks and all that is it's a way to virtue signal how much they dislike the white men. You know, they're choosing the non-white men over the white men as a middle finger to their own white men, right? Much like a divestor. Thank you, Bandit. She's a white divestor. Thank you. That's a great way to look at it. In exactly the same way that black women get called, they call themselves divestors, and when you listen to them talk, they're very like rabidly anti-black male, and they're almost attracted to white men like out of spite, right? Like just to spite black men or something like that. And I think these liberal white women are doing that exact thing. It's just I don't even, because for one, they really don't give that much of a shit about, you know, the blacks and the browns and all that. Most don't. Most of that stuff is it's all for show. It's a virtue signal, right? They're showing how virtuous they are by showing off how little they care for the allegedly racist, patriarchal, violent white man.
Be more upset about coffee going extinct than white people. I don't give a fuck. And it's not that I don't like the color of my skin. I love the way I look. I think I'm really cutie and just, I love my life. I don't take pride in being white. There is a difference between self-love and white supremacy. I'm not a white supremacist, period.
And there it is, right? I hate white guys because I'm not a white supremacist. You see how like 1 + 1 = 2, the logic works in her mind? And it's a very common thing I've noticed with like a lot of the young liberal women. They virtue signal their goodness by destroying, you know, the white people, white men in particular, because that's what's in vogue right now. That's how they show off how noble and pure their feminine heart is. And I think I played this clip before, but we got to come back to this one because we might be hearing a lot more from this lady in the future. Gavin Newsom's wife is just batshit.
Boys, we all know, I think, or increasingly are realizing that boys are moving away from sort of the more progressive boys that spend time online, are moving a little bit I'm trying not to be political here, but are moving to the right and being sort of influenced by the Andrew Tates and some of that sort of alt-right socialization online that we know is very, very dangerous. My husband and I were alarmed when our kids were watching sports online, and my son knew about Andrew Tate and thought he was pretty cool, and thought that his Republican grandfather, who's not a Trumper, but a fiscal conservative, thought that my father would like Andrew Tate. So that's scary. We're like one of the most progressive households, and our son is confused and asking all these questions. We're working on legislation to hold tech companies accountable and help them be a force for good in our kids and families' lives, to really provide all the best in class resources and support for youth so that they don't go down this rabbit hole of very, very dangerous and limiting narratives around ultimately what it means to be a girl and what it means to be a boy. We owe it to them and ourselves to kind of heal this this gift of modern technology, but curb it to be a force for good. I mean, look, the Gov and I, we have 3 more years. We're trying to institutionalize our values so that they carry on beyond.
Only her husband is the governor, right? Her husband is Gavin Newsom. He's the governor of California. Yet somehow she has a role in implementing her vision and neutering all the boys through the power of the government. They will use the power of the progressive fascist state to effectively neuter boys because they have no other way to actually deal with them.
So that's an interesting statistic that you were saying, that so conservative families have less depressed kids. Is that what you're saying?
Apparently boys from boys from liberal families have higher anxiety rates than girls from conservative families.
But above, like,
boys and liberal families have high anxiety rates, which would imply that they grow up in a high stress, high cost environment, you know, where everything is a high pressure moment and everything is like your life depends on it. This is what creates a rise in anxiety in your children. You put in a lot of social pressures on them.
If you just looked at the norm, more girls generally
Yes.
have anxiety.
Right.
But in conservative families, girls are less anxious than boys from liberal families.
That's
right. You would expect women in general to have more anxiousness than men across the board, like from women, from male to female. You would expect the females to have higher anxiousness across the board. But the radical difference in environments in your conservative versus your liberal household, conservative women will have less anxiety than liberal boys. Well, conservative girls, rather, will come up less anxious than liberal boys, because the environment is very toxic to young boys.
right. And I mean, we could speculate as to why. There are lots of proposed reasons for that. But one of the many, things that we might, first of all, we know it's in the environment at that point. It's not an organic, whatever these kids are going through, it's not organic, right?
You know what? We should say that more. Shout out to Rational Bass with the $2. Progressive fascist state needs to be said more. Well, there, I just said it again. We got to make that a thing, because, the left is always crying about fascism, and I don't know what they mean by fascism, but fascism was COVID for me. That's the only real practical experience with fascism that I think we have in America, and it was literally lockdown season.
Right. So we know it's something we're pouring into their life. And I think one of the things might be that, aside from the fact that parents in conservative families may be more comfortable asserting their authority with kids, and that's an old finding. We've known for generations now that authoritative parenting meaning not cold parenting, not cruel, not unloving, but rules. Those kids have better mental health, they're happier, and they're more successful in all kinds of ways. So it may be something to do with comfort with rules, but also they're less likely to turn their kids' lives over to a mental health expert.
Is it
Ooh.
So what is this?
Conservatives are less likely to turn their kids over to a mental health expert. Meaning we're not doping our kids up because the teacher's uncomfortable. Bitch just gonna have to deal with it.
Speculation as to why rules alleviate anxiety. Is it because there's structure? There's more structure to the world, so things seem less open-ended and less chaotic, and
That's right. I think it's something to do with that. Kids need guardrails. They know they're not ready to be in charge. Parents today are so quick to put kids in charge. What do you want? Where would you like to go to school? What would you like to eat for dinner? Putting kids in charge. But we've known since the 1960s. Diana Baumrin did this research years ago, and it's some of the sturdiest research we have, because they've replicated it hundreds of times, and they've shown that loving parents who are also rule bound, they call them authoritative, not authoritarian, which is the cold, unloving rule bound, but the loving and rule bound parents tend to raise the happiest kids, because kids knows there are guardrails. And here's the thing: the people who are making the rules aren't some expert mom hired. They're the people who love me most. They're my parents. They're the ones in charge.
Keep your kids in a conservative household and they're more likely to come out normal, I guess is the point here. But I want to now jump to this conversation. Why do young women hate men? Bunch of liberal fuglies at the table.
Scarlett, you conducted the exclusive polling for this piece, and there are some really fascinating results. One of the starkest findings was how negatively young women feel towards men compared with the other way around. Can you unpack some of the stats for us, please?
Yeah.
Damn it, I'm all muted up. My bad. I couldn't even hear me. My bad. But anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, the idea is that if you look at this manosphere space, right? If you look at this space where you got all these red pill guys, all these online gurus, the MGTOWs and the dating coaches, all this whole male culture thing. The women look at that and say, oh, that's just men hating women. But I think the proper way to diagnose that is that what you're really looking at is a bunch of men that have been completely broken or at least hurt by the reality of women. And that's why they have this concept called red pill rage, right? And what red pill rage basically, what it gets to is the idea that when you really discover the truth of modern women, or not even just modern women, because modern women are still, I don't think women have changed all that much. I just think the rules have allowed them to be more of what they are. We used to have rules that prevented them from being everything they could be. And once you come to the realization of what woman truly is, like the chaotic beast that woman is, it is kind of paradigm shattering. And I think that's what the red pill, the manosphere, the MGTOW, I think that's what all those spaces ultimately represent. Not that men hate women, that men have actually been, men are depressed by the realization of what women truly are. Men have been lied to for a long time about the nature of women. Whereas women, I think, have kind of just intuitively understood the rules of the game, and then they've been capitalizing off that while not actually being honest about it.
I think out of everything we found, this is what jumped out the most to me. I think we're very used to hearing about young men's negative views of young women's and sort of misogyny amongst young men, but this really struck me because we found that 72% of young men have a favorable view of young women, 7%, and not very many really, have an unfavorable view of young women. When it comes to women under 30 though, only 50% have a favorable view. The unfavorable view of men goes up to 21%, and then under 25 women, it's just 35% of young women who have a favorable view of men. And if you go into very favorable, we actually use positive rather than favorable, but if you say very positive, it's just 11% of under 25 women. So we are looking at an environment where young women feel a lot more negatively.
Ryu in the chat says, my red pill rage lasted 5 years. That's a long time. I know I had to probably, I'm gonna give myself at least 2 full years, right? At least 2 trips around the sun. It takes a minute to just accept it and move forward with grace, right? Because you don't want to move forward in hostility and anger. And I think once you lose the hostility, that's when you finally come out the other side of it. But it does tend to hold
towards young men than the other way around.
It's really interesting because I think if you sort of, as a casual observer of some of the discourse about sort of gender politics and particularly the manosphere, you'd assume that this sort of rift between young women and young men was driven by young men's opinions and behavior towards women. Perhaps it is. We'll get more into the reasons behind some of these figures. But really, I mean, it's
and a lot of young women, and part of it's just female nature. It's like a defensive mechanism to protect their own fragile egos. They can almost never accept that the men are responding to the horrible nature of women. This didn't just happen because boys will be boys. It's literally happening because women will be women.
Much more stark on the side of women's attitudes.
Exactly. And it's not even reciprocated, on the young men's side. It really is unbalanced with young women feeling much more negatively than young men.
Yeah. And Emily, you spent a lot of time with this demographic of young women for your feature. How was this negativity towards men shaping their lives? How did it come out when you were speaking to them?
I was really, really surprised by how negatively they spoke about men. And I mean, some of them still had boyfriends and still were dating, although some of them were even quite negative about the men they were dating. One girl I spoke to was like, I can't imagine my boyfriend at the pub with his friends talking about political issues, whereas that's basically all me and my friends talk about. So, she felt quite scathing towards, even though she loved him, she felt quite scathing towards him. And some women I spoke to had basically sworn off men.
They even hate the men they love. which is a very female brain thing to do, but I mean, it's real. It's real. How else can you explain like the phenomenon of, she loved me on Monday and she hates me on Tuesday? Like they vacillate, they go back and forth because it's almost like their baseline feeling toward men is something approaching hostility.
Even though she loved him, she felt quite scathing towards him. And some women I spoke to had basically sworn off men completely and said they were uninterested in them, didn't have male friends. They all said they would not date a man who didn't share their basic views. And given women and men don't have exactly the same politics, and that's going to become more tricky if women are just totally not up for dating a man who disagrees with them on core issues. They viewed that as an absolutely uncompromising moral standpoint.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting because it becomes really pronounced when it gets down to particular political and social issues.
For a couple of years now, we've been noticing this trend where the boys are either going to the right or getting forced into the right, and the women are just diving into the most extreme left-wing positions. Like the men are nominally right wing at this point, right? Whereas women are aggressively far left wing. This isn't a thing that you can like reconcile easily. This is like civilizational fracturing behavior here.
So 6 in 10 say they would find it difficult to date someone who disagreed with them on the Palestine-Israel conflict or who didn't share their views on Donald Trump. And Emily, did you get a sense of why? I mean, you spoke to some influencers actually, and we often talk about these influencers in the manosphere who are leading boys astray. But in a way, there's something sort of reflecting what's going on the male side of things going on for women. Had they been sort of influenced by things that they were seeing online?
Yes, I think men and women are looking at very, very different internets now. Young men and young women. Like the women I spoke to said they were worried about what the men were looking at online. They're worried about, Andrew Tates and people like that.
Yeah.
Whereas I spoke to an influencer who would post very, very left-wing content, very sort of anti-imperialist, very pro-Palestine, very anti the government, anti-Starmer, anti-Trump, but also there is mixed in content about, and with her and people like her, about toxic masculinity, about manufactured male victimhood, things like that. It all kind of blurs into a larger online space where that has a significant antipathy towards men alongside progressive politics.
Yeah, I found it interesting actually. That's something that I've come across on my own feed. Lots of as a mum of a first child, like she's a toddler, I've got a lot of parenting content coming through on Instagram Reels in particular. And it's a lot of women basically being so horrible about their husbands and the fathers of their children.
Totally.
Weaponized incompetence and all of these kind of buzz phrases. And I come off it and I don't recognize that in my own partner or many people that I know, but I do get a sense that there is a lot of frustration and hatred for the opposite sex out there.
100%. The girls I spoke to, I didn't put this in the piece, but they all watched this content about brides being humiliated at their weddings by their husbands. That's a real genre of content. I think a lot of these skits they're scripted, but they'd all watched this stuff and that was a specific thing for them. That's just, men can be so horrible, you can't trust them.
Oh.
Yeah, there is, I don't know, maybe I can't really pinpoint when, but at some point, like we used to have a lot of media and movie that would like encourage healthy bonding. But now we've got a lot of television and in media that creates this image of, women constantly being under assault by misbehaving men. And so what that creates is a feeling of defensive-ness on behalf of the women, where women generally believe every guy that's not hot is a sexual predator. And the only reason that the guys that are hot are not sexual predators is because she wants to bang that guy. And so there's like the halo effect. When you're attractive, they assume all kinds of good things about you. But generally speaking, women just have this attitude that every guy that she doesn't want to bang is somehow a sexual predator. And they really kind of just move through life in that way. And then you got to understand, to live inside of a female body is to kind of live as prey. Because, women are effectively prey to men, right? Men do the hunting, we do the pursuing, we do the chasing. And so to like live inside of the female body is to effectively live as prey. And so they've taken that base reality and then pushed it to an unworkable conclusion, which is I'm being oppressed by all men forever since the beginning of time.
Almost like to drive their rage, kind of.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, just as you see these skits drive to enrage men, there is the same version for women as well.
Yeah. And what is making women feel so disaffected, Scarlett, who you've studied in this polling? I mean, you find that they're very, very pessimistic about their own economic outlook.
Yeah. They're hugely pessimistic about their own economic outlook. They don't think the economy is working for them, which I think is partly then why they have a more favourable view of communism than capitalism, why they think the economy is stacked against them in a way that the young men feel less strongly.
And the problem with that is, and all across the Western world, and almost any Western European country that you can name, hell, and even countries outside of the West, women have been given by the state more than they've ever been given before. Women have access to more than they've ever had before. Women collectively own more than they've ever owned before. Women have more privileges and more freedoms than they've ever had before. Yet they are crushed under the weight of all of this excess, and they're feeling as if they don't have anything. They don't have enough. And it's such an ironic thing. And this is another thing that's creating hostility between the men and the women. The men have a legitimate grievance in that the state punishes men to reward women. You know, we take from Tom to give to Becky. And so Becky, after receiving all of Tom's money, then turns around and says, I'm struggling and you have to do more for me. And Tom looks at this and all he wants to do is watch Becky suffer now.
And what I find about that is I think it's really interesting because I think it's very clear to me that the economy is not working for young people generally. You know, if you look at the youth unemployment rate, if you look at student loans, it's very hard to make your way as a young person, I think, at the moment in this country. But I think what's interesting is that young women feel so much more pessimistically about it than young men, even though actually they're all in a bad situation, but women are in a better position than men overall. So, you know.
Exactly. Women are in the best position they've ever been in. And they are the most miserable they've ever been. This is not unrelated, by the way. I don't think women can have all these things and truly be happy. It's something about the female. You know, we were playing a video the other night when it talked about like the 14 facts about bitches, right? And one of the facts that he said is that you can never be satisfied and demand more. So therefore, women can never be satisfied, right? And I think they're literally experiencing a phenomenon such as that right now. They have the most that they've ever had, and they are the furthest away from satisfaction they've ever been.
Female youth employment stats are much better than male ones. Again, female earnings now for these younger generations have surpassed male earnings. So actually, yes, I think it's sort of absolutely right that they're feeling frustrated, but I still can't quite explain how much more pessimistically they feel, and that is even more pronounced actually amongst, like, it's a bit of an awful pollster term, but you know, about ABC1 women, rather than C2DE. So sort of middle class, more affluent young women in this country are the ones that feel those negative feelings towards the economy, towards how that system works, and much more pessimistic about their life chances.
It's middle class and affluent women who feel as though women have the worst time of all right now. Isn't that ironic? The women who are literally doing the best think things are the worst.
And those from more working class backgrounds and in more working class professions.
That's really interesting. And did you find that those more middle class professional women had a more negative view of men than the...
Yeah, and they had a more negative view basically across the board as well.
Right.
So they were more likely to think the country is racist, for example, more likely to think that the country is sexist, more likely to feel pessimistic about their own chances, more likely to feel pessimistic about how the economy works. Basically anything you can mention, that they were more negative.
And Emily, did you get any insight at all into why that might be? Because obviously, and you mentioned some of the issues that generation are facing there, Scarlett, you know, housing.
You know, I think to some degree, and I probably just stumbled on this a minute ago, but it is all projection. They can't constantly push to make things, quote, better, whatever that means in their little girl brains. They can't constantly push to make things better if they ever admit that things are great and they've been given a lot, right? So they can never admit their gains and what they currently have, because then they could never ask for more.
Shortages, high student debt, and men are in that position too. So why is it that women are coming out with a different outlook?
It's a really good question. I mean, I think a big part is the internet. Your polling showed that women who are more online feel a lot of this stuff more strongly, are more worried about things like abortion rights and the environment. I think they would put, if you ask them, their main answer is women are more empathetic than men. We naturally experience misogyny from a young age. We experience sexual violence, or we witness sexual violence.
I believe the whole thing about women being more empathetic is another female projection. You know, I came across something the other day. It was a study about men and women. I forget exactly how to frame it. I'd have to go back and dig it up. But long story short, the presence of testosterone in the male body in particular, it creates what people call fairness, right? Your testosterone as a man, it encourages you to seek something like an justice, let's call it that, right? Men have a more even-keeled approach to what we call justice and fairness than women are. Women have what they call emotional-based reality or logic. They wrap their feelings around an issue and then get to the conclusion, whereas men wrap their logic around an issue and then get to a conclusion. And that actually creates a more fair outcome, generally speaking. So I think when you really run it out, it's hard to actually find all the evidence that says women are more empathetic. I think that's just a projection, because, you know, we were used to watching young girls play with dolls and we associate that with some type of empathy. But in reality, young girls playing with dolls is like manipulation training. They're practicing how to, you know, puppet and manipulate people. Whereas like young men don't really do manipulation training. We do war training. We do triage. So the idea that women being the more empathetic of the species is actually a giant lie that, you know, television and media and love songs do that shit to you.
We experience sort of, a lot of them had what could be almost reactionary way of talking about sort of, we experience physical pain, and that in our bodies creates this greater sense of feeling and empathy compared to men. It's a very sort of biologically essentialist way in a way of talking about one's politics.
Yeah, I thought it was quite interesting hearing these young women who are...
It's female self-projection. You know, women want to be perceived as more empathetic, more loving, more caring. But any man who's ever spent any significant amount of time around a woman knows that's some bullshit. It is impossible to actually date and marry and cohabitate, you know, live with women, and then still come away with the idea that they're the more caring and empathetic. No. That's literally makeup they put on to attract you.
Extremely progressive in their values and their mindset. Also saying things that you kind of expect from an older, you know, maybe less online generation, like, oh, they're just different, you know.
Yeah, they really root it in their biology.
Yeah.
And they would say, yeah, we've experienced that, and therefore, you know, I've experienced misogyny, and therefore I can now empathize with people who experience racism if they're white, for example, or, you know, classism, and we can just start caring about things. Men never started feeling oppression, so they've never had to care. And I think, you know, that there's obviously a point in that. There obviously, you know, I think a lot of young women growing up will have experienced a friend who suffered sexual violence, if not them. There are those kind of things that can make you aware. But I think also then they go on the internet and it completely reinforces those beliefs and tells them that you should be concerned, and it's a very, very moral issue to not be, and it's a problem if you're not concerned, and you shouldn't be relaxed, and their friends feel that way, and it's a sort of vicious cycle.
Yeah, there's an interesting interview that you do with someone who was on one of those student pro-Palestinian encampments during protests, and they were struck, this woman who you spoke to, sorry, I can't remember her name in piece, she was struck by how something had happened, some terrible thing had happened in Gaza, and the women, there were crying, whereas the men were like, oh, let's just talk about the logistics of our next action.
Yeah.
And that for her summed up that men couldn't sort of feel what was going on as empathetically as women.
Yeah.
Women generally think their overt expressions of their internalized reality makes them better people. That's exactly what that is. Because I emote in public, because I put on a display of being somehow distraught or traumatized, and you don't do that, that makes me a better person than you. Meanwhile, the men are over there actually solving the problem that made you cry and break down in the first place, right? So who is really the better person? The people who fix the problem or the people who cry about the problem?
That was Ash. She was really frustrated with men she worked with in campaigning for Palestine, which was basically her whole life. Like she said that she spent way more time on that than her studies. And she found it very difficult that the men would drop in ways to give speeches and sort of take the limelight, but then they didn't feel as deeply. And she viewed that as a sort of just a failure of empathy, basically. They couldn't quite stretch themselves. It was still about ego, even when, and actually the girls I spoke to at Leeds University as well said that they felt that when men were involved in like social justice issues, it would be by far the most when they're sort of running for politics, like running for the university's Green Society or something. They'd be more like,
I think there's something else that we need to talk about, and I don't think it gets discussed as much as it should in the modern context. There are few things as powerful and all-consuming as the female ego. I know we talk a lot about men and the male ego, the whole Andrew Tate thing, the I'm him thing and all that, but we don't really look at the female ego with the same critical eye. And I would argue that American politics and Western politics in general is really female ego driven, far more so than it is driven by the male ego.
to do that than they would be to do a protest on another issue. They'd never touch feminist society. They wouldn't touch social justice issues that don't involve self-promotion. That's their feeling.
And they felt that extended into their personal relationships as well, didn't they? They felt that a man would call out misogyny if they fancied the woman who they were defending, but if not, they weren't really sort of saying things to their friends that, you shouldn't say that.
They're very, very frustrated with the young men in their personal lives. They feel like they will make racist jokes and sexist jokes, and they'll laugh at them. They won't stand up unless there's a very specific sexual goal.
And what it seems like she's talking about is young women resent that they can't break young men and make them do as they're told. Don't say that. Don't do that. Don't joke about that. Don't laugh at that. And this is creating, hostility. Like, well, these men must be horrible. I hate them.
Well, Scarlett, you talked about the sort of contrast in terms of class, but actually there's quite interesting stuff coming out of your research about the differences in outlook between white women and those from an ethnic minority background. So you might expect women.
Oh, we're getting into racial differences. Oh, I love it when it gets racial.
Of color to be more likely to, to say that they feel the country is racist, for example, because they're more likely to be on the receiving end of racism. But it's actually the opposite.
It is the opposite way around. So yeah, white women in this country, young white women, sorry, I should specify, think that the country is racist.
I would argue that extends to America as well. I could be wrong because I think American blacks are significantly woker than British blacks, but I could be wrong. But generally speaking, I think white women, they oversell the idea of America's racism, or even in that context, they're in Britain right now. But liberal white women, they completely, they buy into the idea that America is incredibly racist, and then therefore position themselves on the opposite side. It's a virtue signal, right? But in reality, we're probably living in the most racial egalitarian times that we've ever had as a country, as a Western civilization.
Ethnic minority women do not overall think it is racist. They're actually tied on the question, but they're significantly less likely to say that it's racist than their white peers. And I think that's interesting. That's interesting in and of itself, but that it extends into other issues as well. So actually, young ethnic minority women are much more likely to say they feel valued by the country. They're much more likely to say they feel positively about improving their life chances, about things like being in a better position than their parents, about earning a decent amount, getting a house one day. All of these issues, they feel like they're much more positive and have more of a stake potentially in society, or feel like they do, than their white peers.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because a lot of the undercurrent of your piece and of your research is that this generation of women don't like the country. They don't feel a sense of national pride. They don't feel like it's giving much to them, and they don't feel like they have a place in this country. Does that come up?
Yeah, absolutely. Ash said there's nothing for me here. I don't think anyone was positive about Starmer, or these are. I don't think any of them felt positive about Britain in any way. Even if they had personal goals they were excited for, which a lot of them didn't. They didn't feel. They felt incredibly pessimistic about the way the country's going. They were terrified about reform specifically, but even the government as it is, which they were just very, very negative about.
Yeah, and that has implications, real world implications potentially, because one of the reasons they're terrified of reform, and one of the, perhaps one of the reasons why they're reluctant to start a family, is that they don't have much hope in their sort of future economic circumstances, but they're scared that reform might sort of, I don't know, force them into family values that they don't have, for example.
Yes.
And, this is such a big conversation on the left and right, is the falling birth rate. And there's a discrepancy again with how likely young women are to feel that they would like to have children compared to what young men would.
Yeah. And so we're still talking.
Yeah, apparently even family, having children and having a normal family is actually a male-coded thing. Girls just want to skeet. Girls just want to have fun and get skeeted on. Not in, but on.
About quite small numbers here, but young women are much less likely than young men to say they would like children. And again, this is particularly pronounced amongst white women under 30, one in five of whom say they would not like children. And that's not sort of like now, that's a ever. And obviously they might change their views over time and all the rest of it. But they're sort of starting out their journey in terms of viewing relationships or approaching people with that view in mind, in a way that the young men their age don't seem to be in to the same extent.
Yeah. Did you speak about starting families with the women that
a lot of them were not sure. Some were anti, a lot weren't sure, but they spoke, all of them definitely didn't want kids by 30. And I spoke to one girl who'd done some polling of herself just in her year group. She just asked, and I think she asked like 15 young men and 15 young women, and almost all the young men said they wanted kids by 30, and like basically none of the young women wanted.
So interesting.
And I think, and they would view that as totally like, well, it's men's fault for not doing enough. They see scary things about trad wives on the internet.
Right.
They see scary things about reform. They see pro-maternity, pro-natalist policies that scare them. They see things about abortion rights that scare them. And it's just, there's not really they don't see any obvious reason to have it.
And so this gets in the way of relationships between young men and women, presumably, although some of the women you spoke to did go out with men. But also
yeah, I think this is a very bitter pill for the modern woman to accept. The less domestic appeal you have, meaning family, children, stability, long-term affection, and all that kind of thing, the less of that you have, the less valuable you are to a lot of men. Like you're still you're still a body. Guys want you for your body and all that, but it begins and ends with that, right? But there's nothing more to be done because you're not that woman. And apparently not enough women are that women. It's collapsing society. We're going to implode Western civilization.
It has implications in terms of party politics. I think every interviewee in your piece were talking about voting Green, I think, or potentially Labour. Have you noticed a split in terms of voting intention?
There is a split in terms of voting intention. And again, it's not the split that people think necessarily. I mean, it is and it isn't. So I think, again, they were part of this narrative about young men, and actually Reform themselves were leaning into this because I think, it helped them to feel like they were very, had a huge appeal amongst young men, even if not young women. But actually, young men are still less likely to vote for Reform than any other generation of men. You know, they're some of the least likely to vote Reform in the country. Most voting intention polls actually have young men just as likely to vote Green as Reform, if not more likely to vote for the Greens. So, you know, it's not that this is being driven by young men in terms of their voting going dramatically to the right.
Right.
But what is happening is that young women are in huge numbers going to the left. Now, we could even see this was visible at the last election, even when the Greens didn't do very well overall, or, you know, they had the best electoral performance, but still, you know, not the sorts of numbers we're now.
And apparently this is true across the Western world, right? In Britain and the UK, probably in Canada as well, women are way more extreme than men are conservative.
In the polls.
Yeah.
And that has only grown since then. And I think when you look into their views of these figures and these parties, and I think what's quite interesting is I think what we're getting at is, you know, it's not just political questions. Their politics are underpinned by their values, which they don't want to compromise on and which they hold very closely. You know, their ideological and cultural values comes first and politics second. And partly as a result of that, they are relentlessly negative about Keir Starmer, about the Labour Party. And I think a lot of this hasn't been priced in, because I think a lot of Labour, or, you know, I think they may be waking up to it now, but just think these women will come home. You know, I think they just think, yeah, they're a bit cross. Okay, fine. They don't like us very much. They don't like all the stuff we do with the flag, you know, whatever it is. But ultimately, they will come back to us, because that's what young women and, you know, sort of slightly older young women do. And actually what we're seeing is that it looks like they're just going to go further away.
Yes, it's really interesting, because I do remember sort of in the Cameron years writing about David Cameron's woman problem. And, you know, the Conservatives could never sort of do better among women than Labour could. And perhaps there's still that old assumption in the Labour Party that, you know, eventually women will come back to them and there's not really anywhere else for them to go.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have assumed that for a long time, and I think they're going to we'll see, because we'll see in how greater numbers they vote, for example, because turnout can be quite low amongst younger groups. But I think there could be some people I think could be in for quite a nasty surprise about how hard it is to get those voters back.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting about this group of women too, and as much as they're talking about, you know, these social patterns and how threatening they may be to Western culture. Well, they're not really talking about how threatening, but they all kind of feel this is not a good thing. They'll never connect this to the giving women right to vote. The fact that women can make political decisions, and therefore the entire nature of politics gets bent toward the morality of women. And now we're in this situation where women hate men and men kind of don't know what to do about it. It's because you gave them the vote.
Generally, I know that we used to talk about this, you know, the motivating voting issues for women voters, you know, usually similar to men, but, you know, perhaps a bit more emphasis on the NHS, childcare, schooling, the things that they might be more involved in their family setup than the men might. In terms of this generation, these Gen Z women that we're talking about, are the motivating factors the things that we've been talking about, you know, climate change, how they feel about Israel, Palestine, Trump, those kind of issues?
Yeah, definitely. So they're still very much concerned about the cost of living, and again, but they firmly see the solution to that through a redistributive lens. You know, that's what they would like to see, and they're very agitated about housing costs and things like that. They would be a fan of Zach Balansky's policy announcements about rent controls, for example. So it's sort of economics, but with that spin on it. And then otherwise, you're absolutely right. Issues that are more important to them absolutely include things like the Israel-Gaza conflict, much more important to young women than it is for a lot of the rest of the population. And then they do loathe Donald Trump, and they are genuinely fearful of Donald Trump. And I was speaking to some in focus groups actually. And
the idea that women in the UK are genuinely fearful of Donald Trump is more reason why they do not need to vote. Because now your politics has to cater to their irrational fears, which is actually how politics actually works right now. This is why most liberal campaigning is some version of a fear-based strategy. There's almost nothing really like hopeful and inspirational about like left-wing progressive politics. It's almost always a fear-based appeal. London
over the last couple of weeks, and they actually even were saying, well, we don't want the country, even though we're really cross, we actually don't want the country to get weaker because that will help Donald Trump. So, that they are framing quite a lot of our national politics in terms of what's going on in America. And I think that is partly because that's what a lot of their media, we're talking about online.
Yeah.
A lot of that is framed in terms of American politics and their political discussions.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I think particularly on the right of politics, there's this image of sort of overeducated young women who come out of university with these kind of radical political.
Overeducated is such an interesting word. I would argue poorly educated, miseducated, undereducated even. How often do you actually meet an overly educated woman? Like really, in all practicality, how often do you actually meet an overeducated woman? It's just one of those words like emotional intelligence. It's a phrase we came up with. So, chicks who went to college can feel good about themselves.
Opinions, and they're the reason why we're not getting enough babies born and that kind of thing. I mean, is there any sort of grain of truth in that, frankly?
I mean, I do think they probably are, perhaps they are spending more time online, and that's why that's part, and, that message is being reinforced. Universities are left wing. They're with a group of people who feel the same. It becomes a bubble where they think that. I mean,
you do have those differences of opinion between the ones with degrees and
they're in a bubble where people think like that. I mean, it's natural to look at America and be scared of it. I think America came up a lot with everyone. They were all worried about Trump. They take care.
They are literally scared of America. Which, to be fair, a lot of people are kind of cool on Trump right now because, the nigga literally doing too much. But I like that chicks across the country, I like that women across the world are afraid of America. I don't think that's ever been a thing in the Western world. Liberal women in Europe are afraid of America. And I think that's a good thing. But that's just me.
It's almost as much as like Britain, it's a problem for them. I mean, it kind of, I don't necessarily blame them for it because when you speak to them, you just feel they're quite compelling about all these issues. They describe, graduating into a world where they're watching war on the internet, that they feel like their government doesn't get them and it doesn't care about the things they care about, and young men don't care about the things they care about. You feel very sympathetic towards them because they're identifying real issues, and if they want to opt out, why not? But obviously it has very bad ramifications for British society if one group's so alienated.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because I think you mentioned it, Scarlett, but the way that they feel more positively about communism and socialism than they do about capitalism. Is that right?
Yeah,
it's quite a big shift, isn't it?
That is, yeah. I mean, I was quite, so overall women have a sort of, we say +2 view of capitalism. So just about in net positive.
Right.
But they have a much more favorable view of communism. It's on +11. So, they.
And this is more evidence that women are the opposite of over-educated because they genuinely think they have this warm and fuzzy opinion of communism and socialism. Like socialism is just going to hug everybody in its warm embrace and make sure everyone is fed and warm and loved enough. Whereas like the best modern example of a communist country is literally China. And they're probably slightly mixed economy, especially like in some parts where it's major cities and shit. But there's nothing warm and fuzzy about the communist government of China, all right? For all they have, they will disappear you and forget where they put you.
Do feel much more favorably inclined towards communism. One of the interesting divides I found, because I do think, what you're just saying, it depends what spin you want to put on it, but the data does bear out that, especially white, but, middle class, educated women do feel these things more strongly than the rest of that cohort. But what's really interesting as well, I think, is that there's a huge difference between what I call like the COVID, or many people call the COVID generation,
right,
and their slightly older peers. So if we break out the sort of 18 to 25 year olds versus the 25 to 30 year olds, the 18 to 25 year olds feel these things much more extremely. And with the 18 to 25 year olds, so poor is their view of capitalism that they actually have as favorable view of fascism. Now, I'm not suggesting that all these under 25s are fascists. They are very clearly not. They're very, very far from that. but I thought that was the bit that really made my jaw drop.
That's amazing. And I suppose we haven't talked about COVID, but that is I mean, that's such a big percentage of some of these women's lives. They're so young, and it was their.
Didn't I tell you earlier? COVID was effectively fascism. It was a progressive fascist regime, and we all just kind of, went with it and got through it.
Formative years that were impacted by this, whether they were at university or whether they're at school. How far did you find that being something that they would sort of refer back to as the thing that kind of radicalized them? Sounds pejorative, but sort of led them to where they are now.
I really think that is a massive factor in it. I mean, they didn't cite it so much, but you have to think, well, because I'm 28, so I'm just sort of just a bit older than these people. And at school, I was part of these feminist society, and at university, these kind of protests. I was sort of in that kind of world, but I was trying to think, what's the difference between my experience of it, where everyone was talking about progressive things and fourth wave feminism and all that stuff. What's the difference between that and these people now? And it is just that this overwhelming bleakness that I don't recognize that at all from when I was at school and when I was at university. I don't remember this sense of being totally done with men. I think people were angry about things and people were excited about new ideas, and it was sort of
If women think they're totally done with men, what the hell are they going to do? Is everybody just going to get old and die out? Or even worse, and this is really what's going to happen in the Western country. Women hate young white Western women, hate young white Western men so much that they're effectively inviting the barbarians into the gate. Which is why historically you never let women guard the walls of the town. You never let women do security. Never, ever, ever trust women to run security, at least not alone. She can be at the front desk with a clipboard or something, but there has to be men there who will back it up.
There were books to read. There were all these
journalists
writing, interesting new things. Everyday sexism was suddenly a concept that you might not have used before, like that phrase.
Totally, Me Too, Rose's for BLM. There were all these movements and all these new concepts, like microaggressions, all this stuff, and it was we learned about all of it. I don't remember the nihilism and the negativity. That I don't remember, and I do think. I mean, I think the war in Gaza is another big thing that probably made them feel really detached. But I think COVID, that time feeling alone and isolated and watching more and more on the internet and getting more segregated, I just think that's a huge difference.
Yeah. And lastly, is there anything, it's pretty bleak for Labour, isn't it? Because they feel so sort of pessimistic about the current government. What would you do if you were in Starmer's team and you were looking at these figures? Is there anything that could win these women back?
I think it's very difficult to know, and I think the problem they will have is if they. I think firstly that these women do. I think until sort of Zach Plansky and the Green Party, which is a very new phenomenon and hasn't even filtered down to a lot of these young women yet. I think the ones you spoke to very positively, but it's still not actually hugely known amongst the public. So I think that we will see that accelerate over the next year, but no one's been trying to speak to them. I think no one's been sort of acknowledging that they feel locked out of or at odds with society. I do think it is difficult though, because they increasingly look like a sort of unreconcilable part of the coalition, if that makes sense.
And that's where that's the actual reality of the problem. Women are so extreme that it's unreconcilable at this point. And I think it's hard to look at modern politics with any practicality, with any wisdom, if you don't have any grounded understanding of women in general. And so if you've been in any real long-term relationships with women, any just serious encounters with women, you can probably relate to what I'm about to say to you. In order to truly be effective or successful, even with women, whatever you think that means, it is imperative that a man access a level of coldness. Stoicism is a word often thrown around, but I prefer coldness. Women don't understand stoic, but you tell a bitch, I feel cold. I'm cold-hearted. They understand exactly what that is, right? And when you treat them with a level of coldness and detachment, it kind of deflates the manipulation and the feigned empathy that they like to project. And honestly, your coldness is the only real effective weapon to their weaponized empathy. How else do you fight weaponized empathy unless you have a form of weaponized coldness, right? And so I think for a lot of men, and then as a political reality going forward, we're just going to have to ignore women. But, you know, they have the vote, so that's not going to work either. But that's kind of what's being asked right now, is to kind of just take the vote from women and ignore their cries, because your coldness is the only thing that can save the both of us, you know?
Because of the things that are most important to them. I suspect if you're in parts of Labour, there'll be parts of Labour that strongly agree with them on lots of this, by the way. You know, some of the PLP and things like that will, I think, will have a huge amount of sympathy for these young women's views. But it's difficult when if these young women are holding dear to them and things they won't compromise on, which are then toxic to other parts of the electorate. You know, so I think it's a very difficult balancing act for Labour specifically, although it's something that Labour, the Greens, I think, you know, the next election is increasingly look like a battle between coalitions. They're going to have to, whatever sort of coalition takes form in the left, it's going to have to start factoring some of this stuff in and working out how to reconcile it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you.
Thank you
so much, both of you.
There is no way to reconcile women hating men, especially to the degree that we've reached lately, where women are just live at the political extreme. And most men, especially the younger ones, tend to hover somewhere close to the right wing, nominally right wing at best. But I don't know how you reconcile that with a level of force or something. Like there is, and then that's ultimately what's playing out in the grand scheme of things. It's like a giant force of wills, you know? Is her will stronger than your will? And typically, if it's just, you know, one-on-one man-woman, it's easy to probably overcome that and navigate that problem. But when you sort of extend that to the majority of women and give them the voting franchise, it's no longer just about your will. Now you have to be clever. You have to figure out a way to work around these things. And Ben, that's something interesting you just said here in the chat. How you fight empathy with gaslighting? Are you saying gaslighting can fight empathy? Are we going to take like the 50 Cent method? Just spit game to the bitch confused? Is that how you fight empathy? Just spit game at her until she doesn't know what's happening? I think that's what's happened to women already. I think women have been receiving so much emotionally weighted information that they are effectively confused and frozen. They're paralyzed with emotion effectively. They can't think logically about the problem. They can only think emotionally about the problem. Like they kept mentioning Gaza and Palestine and whatnot earlier. And I'm not sure, and don't get me wrong, I am not about to pick sides on either side of that fight, but I am not sure that these women who care so much about the suffering in Gaza even understand the complete depth of the problem. They just don't like to see babies cry. And because they don't like to see babies cry, they would literally set the world on fire. They don't really have that kind of 1 leads to 2, 2 leads to 3, 3 leads to 4 type of logic going on. They just don't want to see babies cry. Dick Thug with the $10, he says, they are no longer progressive. Progressive is more pro-science. They doubt biology and they feel that taxes should go towards social issues rather than space exploration. But we all know this. I beg to disagree, though. I beg to differ, Doug. I really do think they are just the modern extension of that original early 1900s progressivism that we all learned about in high school. But shout out to Dick Thug with the $10. Y'all smash that super chat button for me.
Hulk! Smash! Smash you! You make Hulk angry! You not like Hulk angry! Hulk no like fighting girls.
Interesting point. Bandit says empathy is manipulation. So you fight manipulation with confusion and misdirection, aka gaslighting. You might be onto something there. Got to fight fire with fire, right?
when it comes to intimacy, there are so many women that think they are above science. There are so many women that think they are above their DNA. And it's just always so funny to hear because they always in the comments like, no, like when I sleep with men, my mind and I don't get attached and I don't do this and I don't do that. And I'm just like, congratulations. You are now your biggest op. Congratulations. Your body is now not in harmony. Congratulations. You're now not in alignment. Congratulations. That's not normal. I don't know why y'all think it's a flex to be able to separate the mind from the body from the spirit. I don't know why y'all believe that is a flex. I honestly just wish that y'all would just say the quiet part out loud. And the quiet part out loud is you hate men, you don't like men, you don't want nothing from them. You just don't hate them enough to stop sleeping with them. That's the truth. You just want to continue to sleep with them. You want to do it. Just say it. Just say it and stop trying to just say that you don't just say that you enjoy sleeping with men so bad that the mistreatment and all that is really not that serious. You just like to be performative for other women because y'all gotta sell to each other.
I think that's a lot of what's happening too. There's a lot of like female one-upsmanship happening. Like, oh, you hate men? I hate men more. You think these niggas ain't shit? I know they ain't shit.
When you realize that the vast majority of men play games from the very start when it comes to dating, you literally have an entirely different outlook on men. Listen to this clip.
Of the doubt so damn much. We know exactly what we're doing. We're not stupid. Men are very intentional. They'll talk to you and in the back of their head, they already played out a few things that they want to do with you. Every single thing that a man does with a woman is with intention, 100% every single time. And a man might.
I really hate these guys. Just giving chicks weapons to break men.
Might play dumb. He might play the card to get you to think that he's dumb when in reality he's not. He knows exactly why he's talking to you and he knows exactly what he wants from you. If he hasn't texted you or reached out in 2 to 3 days, 100% intentional. If he hasn't reached out in a few weeks, 100% intentional. Men don't just talk to women who they are genuinely interested in and then don't talk to them for 2 to 3 days on end. It doesn't work like that. When a man is genuinely interested in a woman, he will reach out to you in 2 to 3 days, a week or two, whatever it may be. 100% intentional. He's not doing that accidentally. When men love bomb you, you think it's on accident. It is not on accident. It is very intentional, very strategic, and very thought out, very deliberate. Men prioritize women who they want in their lives. If a man's texting you all damn day and in all reality, the same things that you're looking for.
When a woman takes a man's life, I don't care. When a woman sets up a man, I don't care. When a woman lies and manipulates a man, I don't care. And the reason why I don't care is because look at all the pain and trauma that men do to women. Look at all the manipulation that men do to us. So when it happens to a man, I don't care. And this is also why I take my time when it comes to dealing with men on a romantic level. Because I'm the wrong bitch to play with. And I would hate to have to show a man that. But I will. I promise you I will beat a man at his own game.
Hey, shout out to American Man. I'm about to drop the link for you. You said you wanted to come up and chop something up with me, so I'm gonna throw that link in the chat real quick. We're not gonna stay up too long because it's been a long day. I had to do a lot today. This is my second show for the day. But American Man, I am throwing the link in the chat right now to you, and I did just get your donation. Shout out to everybody who supports the show on Venmo. I'm banned from so many things right now. I don't do Cash App anymore. So if you want to support the show, Venmo is another option. The Venmo address is crawling at the bottom of the screen right now. And thank you to American Man with the $20 Venmo donation. And American Man, you can come up whenever you're ready, bro. Appreciate the support. Thank you so much. And yes, it does cost a lot of money.
It costs a lot of money to bring the real. And with this, I dress myself in cashmere. I dress myself in $100 pleated slacks. I dress myself in alligator shoes. I wear a $15,000 Rolex. I got Mercedes-Benz, Rolls Royce, the biggest house on the biggest deal. Yeah, we don't care. I got Mercedes-Benz, Rolls Royce, the biggest house on the biggest deal. Yeah, we don't care. You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, limousine like jet flying, son of a gun, the biggest star of them all. It costs a lot of money to bring the real world champion on location. Only an Artie and Ricky. We do it better than everybody else. Don't wrap me up. No.
Hey, you know something funny? Shout out to Ric Flair, man. I gotta send Ric Flair a check or something one day. You know, Ric Flair is like 80 years old, still getting drunk in public and chasing pussy around in his car. He's like my white idol. I swear to God, bro. I love Ric Flair right now. Welcome to the show. American Man, what's good, bro?
Let me just say this. Shout out to Ric Flair. But I've been working through a theory, right? And like a lot of things have been going on. So I've been watching the reaction to this black woman that was killed, right? And I say, well, I don't need to disclose that, but I say black woman loosely because we don't know nowadays. But so I've been watching the reaction to this black woman being killed, right? And the theory that I'm wondering is, one, right? So there's a couple things are in motion. One, do women actually understand what they're doing? Because I'm starting to place links between they do all these things, right? And you said earlier in your stream, you was like, I hate when chicks act like they don't understand. But I think I'm working through they don't understand, right? And here's why. How many times have you said they don't have morality until we give it to them? And so, if you're looking at a chick that has never had morality, how can you expect her to have morality? Because we give it to them. We set the moral standards. And so you have all these fatherless chicks, and we're like, oh my God, you don't have morality. But we set the morality.
Okay, one thing first off, let's kind of build it from the bottom up. Morality is a male coded thing, right? It's very male coded,
and that's why fatherless chicks can't have it.
And not only that, but back to what I was saying earlier about testosterone. Testosterone is the fairness drug, right? And what else is morality but an attempt at fairness? Well, it's at least one way to describe morality is where it's attempt at fairness. And I think
correct
when you bring that up, yeah, it's very obvious that morality has to kind of it emanates from men, and then it has to be policed by men, especially the borders of morality have to be policed by men. Now, where I think we can kind of get into the weeds a little bit, and I'm gonna bring you two guys up in a second. I see Bandit and Socrates back there. Just hold on. I'm gonna one-on-one this for a minute. We're going to 1v1 for a few minutes here. American Man, what I think you're getting at, now that we've set out morality, let's move up a little bit higher. And I'll accept your premise there. When women don't really understand morality the way men do, right? I don't think that's not the charge I'm giving women at this point, right? When I say they understand, they don't understand the complexities of morality, perhaps, but they understand the complexities of a grievance. You've caused a harm, you've treated a person unkindly, you've sort of gone out of your way to be abusive. So I think they understand their behavior in the sense of they know they're doing some negative things. Now, how much of that can they really rationally logic out as like, you know, some grand moral plot? Well, you know, who knows? But I think they understand when they, you know, when she knows when she's fucking with you. You know what I mean?
Well, I again, right? I don't think that's the argument I'm having. The argument that I'm right taking up is this. I just don't like because again, right, in wake of this woman being killed, I'm listening to women and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, right? They have no concept of morality and like doing things right and wrong because literally we instilled that in them. I think we've seen enough chicks to understand that, like, yeah, they just sort of live this weird thing where, like, until I hit the stop sign, where like we understand the stop sign. And so like when I listen to these chicks, I'm starting to believe like I don't think they actually understand like what the problem is because they don't do morality.
I'm not gonna fight you on that one. Let me share this thing because I had to go dig it up really quickly. And oddly enough, they're talking about the placebo effect here. And he says the placebo effect is powerful. In a 2009 study, women who took testosterone behaved more fairly towards others in negotiations with less conflict. However, women who believed they took testosterone but actually just had a placebo behaved more aggressively and unfairly. Now, when they think they're behaving like men, you know, they're assholes, which is why, like, I always laugh at like
The studs.
the studs. They always like project. They always look like ain't shit niggas. Every and it's a very black thing. I don't see a lot of white studs. White studs are just butch, but like black chicks have like perfected the whole stud thing, and it's always the worst nigga of the group. They every stud is like the worst nigga you could ever meet, you know? And I think they're projecting what they perceive male behavior to be, but without actual proper testosterone to guide them biologically, then it's just a projection of what they think, not an actual attempt at fairness. And I think that's what this article was getting at. Let me read a little bit more and I'm bringing other guys up. It says, here we show that the sublingual administration of a single dose of testosterone in women causes a substantial increase in fair bargaining behavior, thereby reducing bargaining conflicts and increasing the efficiency of social interactions. That is some very male-coded shit. We just want to make everything run smooth. Anyway, however, subjects who believe that they received testosterone, regardless of whether they actually received it or not, behaved much more unfairly than those who believe that they were treated with placebo. Thus, the folk hypothesis seems to generate a strong negative association between subjects' beliefs and the fairness of their offer, even though testosterone administration actually causes substantial increase in the frequency of fair bargaining offers in our experiment. What say you, American man? Let me bring your other guys up.
So let me ask this question, right? So they had to give women what is genetically grown in men for them to be fair. In the chat that I said earlier, I said it's genetics. Women do not have the genetics. You know what? I'm gonna.
Let's put this another way. It's even more scary. It's even scarier.
Oh, hold on. I would like to finish.
All right, go ahead.
Like,
Go ahead.
like women don't have the genetics to like deal with any of that. They just don't have it. And so I think like a lot of times when we're telling ourselves like women are acting dumb and they're like, they don't understand and we're like, oh, you're playing dumb. No, I think they literally don't understand because none of that is built into them. It's right. It's built into us, but it's not built into them. So that's why I forget who it was had made a statement and had said, maybe with Andrew Tate, right? Now, I don't watch Andrew Tate. I'm older than him, blah, blah, blah. But like he comes up in the feed. We all seen Andrew Tate several times, even though we don't search him out. And I think there was one thing that he said, and he was like, God damn, I had it and I lost it. God damn it, I lost it.
All right.
Bandit, you were about to say something. You got it.
Yeah, real
Go
quick.
ahead.
I'll keep this real short. Now we know how women act when they're emotional and everything else. Now add microplastics and everything, estrogen in our system, and now men are starting to act like women, and you wonder why society is going to shit. You know what I mean? Like this is all sorry, this is all seen like throughout society. We see society collapsing because men aren't acting like men, they're acting like women. And we're seeing the fall of society because of it. And
Bandit.
Yeah.
Bandit, thank you. That was one other thing that I actually wanted to make a point of tonight. Look at women's genetics. What do their genetics do? After they've made all the men in America weak, they go and get the third world men that will subjugate them, and they tell them, come be our leaders. What does that show you genetically about women?
It know what it tells you? It tells you that women will always want something. And that something will always change. And you have to understand what that something.
No, incorrect. It tells you that women always want to be subjugated so they don't have to deal with consequences.
Yeah,
that's why they're going out and getting third world men that they know will subjugate them.
It's more than that. And what I'm trying to say.
No, it's not. That's genetics, bro.
I know.
Like,
let me explain.
Hold on, American. Let me get it out. Let me get it out.
Let me explain real quick, and then I'll shut up. What I'm trying to say is women want they want something, and that target keeps moving, and they don't like what they have now. And depending on their emotional state, they will want something else. So they see you and they go, I don't want that. I want something else. They don't know that this something's going to be good or bad for them, but it's always an ever shifting target. So you have to understand what a woman's mindset is at that moment to be able to understand what that person wants, because it's going to change. It's like men go from A to B. Women are like a clusterfuck. They just literally will. If you look at women's brain, it's like if you took a pencil and just start jabbing it around on a piece of paper. There's no connecting dots. It's just an angry cloud that makes absolutely no sense. That's women's mind.
Now,
All right, men are a straight line, A to B. We want something.
I want to say
logical,
this,
makes
right?
sense.
I think you and I are doing two different things, right? Because what's happening is, here's what I'm saying. Women protested being out of the 1950s to bring you men from the 1950s. It goes back to genetics.
Well, I
That's
think
the part no one's paying attention to.
I think your larger point stands immensely, that the kind of lack of comprehension of second and third order effects, that's what we're getting at. You know, they don't necessarily see the second and third order effects either. And perhaps that is a testosterone thing. Maybe it's something about testosterone that gives you supreme pattern recognition abilities.
But it's also like men need to have a logical conversation, because men will kill each other over something stupid. Like if I went to you, Hood, and I stepped on your foot and you thought I was affronting to you, you're gonna beat the living crap out of me. You know what I mean? Like
most
no,
don't,
I'm just saying, like,
yeah, I get what
you
you're
meet
saying.
someone you go in the streets and you bump into somebody, that could be the last thing you ever do.
But that's a level of degeneracy. That's not.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what
It's
I'm
not a
getting at.
positive.
Like we have to have
I
respect.
think we're
for one another.
overcomplicating it, guys.
Hold on, I want to kind of open it up. Let me widen the conversation a little bit, because hold on 1 second, Willie, because we got a little bit of an order. Black Socrates, you were up next. You haven't said anything yet. What's going on, bro?
I'm good. I've been
chilling. What's up?
All right, so it's a confluence of things. First, you have to understand like female psychology. If you understand the 5 big personality traits, women score highly on neuroticism, which is just general anxiety, bad feelings, miserableness, etc. And if you think about historically, women are just miserable people. Like if things are going good, they're sad. If things are going bad, they're sad. If you actually ask them what makes them happy, to change the target changes at any given moment because their hormones fluctuate, their feelings fluctuate, how they feel, and they're prone to constantly have trauma or stresses from almost anything. That's why I always tell people, no matter what happens, women are going to perceive a threat or perceive injury, even if it doesn't exist, because that's how they wired, kind of like prey animals, right? So you can
Which is
you
literally the
want to
term I used earlier. They inside the female body is to live as prey. You feel me?
exactly. So what happens is that come on, everyone has had this conversation with women. What's wrong? Nothing. What's wrong? Seriously, nothing. I mean, I just don't know why you said this. It's not what you said, it's how you said it. It's like, what? Excuse me? In their minds, how the tone, your eye contact, your mannerisms, they feel all those things. They just feel more than men. And if you thought about it, imagine if you had extra sensory perception to the point where you felt everything. It would drive you crazy. If you felt the cloth on your skin, if you felt the wind blow, if you felt all these things, it would create a sensory overload and a kind of annoyance for men. That's how
That is
women are
hilarious.
regularly.
They're
Right?
like
Women,
struggling from a neurotic sense of sensory overload.
oh, absolutely. They feel everything. They feel they ask them, what's going on? Oh, I don't know. I don't even know what's going on with me. I just feel sad. I don't know why I feel sad. Who knows? She woke up, she saw a bag that another girl had. She feels sad. A girl's prettier than her. She feels sad. A girl's not as pretty as she is, but looks like she's having a better life. She's sad. Her husband is a great man, but he's not the guy that she first fell in love with. She's sad. That's how they are. And it's actually good that they're this way because it makes them great caretakers for children. Children are very helpless creatures who can die very easily. So if you're going to have something take care of a child, you need them to be very sensitive to everything so they're very quick to react. Cry, react. The baby don't look good, it reacts. Or it'll die. Because the baby will go out, babies are crazy. Baby will eat anything, put anything in its mouth, it'll walk around, it'll fall over, it can't do much, it'll just die. So women are wired to be nerve wrecks to take care of children. And unfortunately, when they don't have children and they don't have an outlet, that's why knitting was the thing. They don't have an outlet for the neuroticism, they project it onto the world. So the world becomes a giant threat that they have to solve. And they blame men. They're miserable people. That's what's really what's happening.
Let me ask Willie, because I didn't see you in the chat, so I'm not sure how much of this conversation you even watched. I mean,
I've
how
been
much of the show
listening.
I was doing, but yeah, I was curious where you wanted to jump in at, Willie. What's going on, bro?
It's just the arguments are really bad when you start at the premise. The premise is basically when people are saying women, 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 they're acting like all women are the same. All men aren't even the same.
Well, let's stop right there, Willie. Now, the whole premise of the entire show, and as laid out by the first half, there's evidence to say that women, as a group, obviously not everyone, but as a group, women are extremely left wing compared to the men. So, yeah, I will stand on that, Willie.
Yeah, but I mean, that only makes sense. Like on the right wing side, they're conservatives. They want to go with the old way. And in the old way,
On the right
women
wing
had
side, they're
women.
conservatives.
Hold on,
All right,
America. Hold on.
let me know when I can finish.
Nah, you got it, Willie. I'm going to disagree vigorously, but I'm going to let you finish your point. Go ahead.
I'm saying I expect, right? Like me as a man, I expect women and gays, right, to be liberal because in the conservative landscape, they have no place. They take the back seat.
So
Right?
now we're on the same page. They're liberal by nature. And actually, not only are they liberal by nature, the point of the show is to say that they've moved to the extreme.
But where we're not on the same page is I don't think it's nature. I believe they're responding to their environment. I believe it's very much like
No,
how
that's true.
most
We agree on that too, by the way. But go
hold
ahead.
on. I believe it's very much how most black men vote Democratic. Why? Because there's no place you can't find a single bad hairline that wore that MAGA hat anywhere in Trump's administration, right? Like when most black men are logical with ourselves, we understand we have no place in that party. So I think that's very similar to why women cleave And that's the Democratic advantage.
Can I give you
The
some game
Democrats
on that?
invite everyone. Good.
Let me give you some game on, and this is very black point in particular, right? You realize black men are unique in that we're the only group of men that vote like our women.
Yeah, because they mature.
Right. So what you
So
just
you're
said about
saying
the
white
black
women
men
don't
voting
vote?
Democrat,
Wait,
I'm
but are
saying
we
that
arguing white women don't vote conservative?
only married white women vote right wing. Married white women vote like their husbands. Black men across the board vote like their wives. That's a unique to black men.
But it's all about
Yes, Willie,
like
you vote like your
the,
So
wife.
wait, even if
the
I was
relation
going
of
to
power.
accept that, the question is why, right?
The relation
And
of
for
power.
me, and for
Because
Relation
you're
to
me,
power.
weak.
Hold on, one at a time. One at a time. Black Socrates says it's a relationship or a ratio to power. What is that?
Relationships of power. So basically,
Okay.
right? If they did the studies,
We're
people
gonna
go
come
to
back
the
to you, Willie.
gym. People go to the gym or who work out are more right leaning than people who don't. Why? Because they're stronger. So the stronger you are, the more capable you are, the more competent you are, the more resourceful you are, the more you're going to lean right. Because you don't need the left. You don't need collectivism. A person who
when
can
I don't agree
self-defend.
with that.
Right.
I think
That actually tracks, but you got it,
I
Willie.
think the overwhelming number of conservatives are the obese, big American, right?
First of all,
I think when it comes
wait.
to hold on,
Oh
just let me
Well,
land. I
I
think when it
understand your
comes to
point.
working out, you see a lot more liberals, women, gays in these.
Okay.
Oh
This is
my
what people will
God.
complain about.
Well, hold on. All right. So here's the
So
thing.
clearly they're there.
That is not that nobody who's doing any objective studies or surveys is going to back that up. People who study
Correct.
this will tell you gym culture is right wing bro culture,
Correct.
almost
100%.
across the board.
Thank
And
you,
they
Hood.
literally tell you going to the gym will make you right wing.
Well, facts. Give me your
Testosterone
right
will
facts.
make you
wing.
right wing.
All right. So check this out. So
Good.
I understand why he has a confusion, and it is a confusion because people use the word conservative in America on the West incorrectly, right? They say that Republicans are quote unquote conservative. They're not. They're
I
actually
am
liberal.
attaching it to
They're,
something. I would agree.
yeah, there is no conservatives in America except the Hasidics, the Amish, Mormons, and some religious groups. Everyone else is a different shade of liberal. And the reason
But now
why is
you're
it stems from
shooting down their argument.
wait, hold on. It stems from the French Revolution.
How about
Where
libertarian?
we're getting there. But most people in America are not libertarian. So the French Revolution had people sit on the right, people on the left, based on the seating of the French Revolution, determined that you're right wing or left wing. That's how it happened. Left wing tend to want greater concentration in the government, but the right wing wants more freedom of mercantile and capitalism. But they both believe in certain fundamental things, which is equality, freedom to do what you want, etc. Now check this out. This is how it tracks. This is why in the quote unquote Republicans, they still have women run for office. They still have women lead men. They're not going to tell a woman be quiet and go home and cook. Not going to do that. Why? Because they're liberal. They sleep around. They don't have a lot of kids. They do abortions. You just don't want abortions to be so obvious or at 9 months. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to
Yeah.
jump in. I want Willie. I tell you, what, American Man, you want to jump in, and I'm gonna give Willie a last
Yeah.
rebuttal.
Yeah.
And
I
move the
think
mic around.
we're losing the plot, but I do want to say this. Anyone that thinks Donald Trump is a Republican is an absolute idiot.
Wait, is that just me hearing like this?
Now, I want to say this, right? I think we're losing the plot. The point that I'm making is I don't think we're paying attention to the fact that women, right? We're trying to do all this deep philosophy. Here's what I realized. Women, Western women, are telling Western men, we are going to import third world savages that smack us around and make us orgasm without asking us. I don't think you guys are paying attention to what's happening. You're losing the plot. Look at who they literally are voting for Islamists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
You know what
I don't think we're seeing what's happening, right? And like a lot of people just want to be deep philosophers of what's going on when you should just use your eyes of what's happening.
Okay.
Like this is not like a weird, it's not a weird like we just want to spite men. a lot of this is biological as
American
well.
man, are
They're
you
like,
racist?
a lot of you guys have gotten soft, and so we must bring in men that we feel will protect us.
American man, let me ask you, hold on, Socrates. I want to say this because I'm trying to like ringleader
Go
and
ahead.
pass the mic around. I got to get it to Willie one second.
Go ahead.
And then Mr. O, you right up after Willie. But let me say this, American man, what you just reminded me of. Anybody familiar with the story of, I think it's Alexander and the Gordian knot? So there was a knot. So it was a knot that basically couldn't be untied. And this knot was presented to Alexander the Great as a challenge. How do you untie the Gordian knot? And you know what he did? He chopped the shit in half. And so I think that's really what you're getting at, American man, is at a certain point, your philosophy goes out the door and it's power, might makes right effectively. But Wall Street Willie, I wanted to give you a last rebuttal before I move the mic around. Willie. Oh, he's busy in the background. All right, Mr. O, what's going on?
What's going on? What's going on? What's the question at hand?
Not exactly a question at hand, but I'll pitch you one. What is your take on angry young women?
Wait,
Why
no,
are
my
they
bad.
like that?
I was on
Oh,
mute.
okay. All right. Willie, where'd you go? But I want you to get your last rebuttal in before we moved on. You got it.
I was on mute. So my thing is twofold, right?
Okay.
One, I don't think we're looking at the world realistically when we define things by men and women. Two, as a man, right? When I listen to these arguments, they sound weak, right? Like
In what
I
way?
know I am in a position to dictate female thought. I don't think a lot of guys feel like that. And I think they're the ones that view these women as these opposition party. Like, no, like they can be worked. Like one thing great about the conservative party is they work women into their party, right? Like you don't get a Marjorie Taylor Greene without white conservative men saying I rock with her because she's aligned with me. So I think the alignment conversation gets lost, and then it just becomes this weird women are biologically meant to be like this. No, in 2026, women aren't even women anymore. Men aren't even men anymore, right? Like most of this stuff in the context of what we're talking about is strictly political. And so that's defined by who can control who. And so when I hear men making these arguments, it's a very defeatist mindset to me because I know I don't care what these broads are
I
thinking of
hope
me.
I get to respond.
I can execute
We're gonna
a
have
level
to
of
circle
control.
around. I'm sorry, Willie. Finish your point. I didn't want to step on you.
No, that was just it. Like when I hear these arguments, the only reason I could never make these arguments because I could never give women that level of power. Like at the end of the day, I'm still gonna be in control. I still have the ability to sway women in my direction. You know what I mean? Like I don't give them the control that I hear a lot of men give them when they make their arguments.
This always happens in these conversations. Somebody pulls out the I'm him card, and this will never happen to me. Mr. O, I'm going to keep the mic to you, bro.
Tom Brady was him too.
Yeah, every him knows that, right? Mr.
Tom
O,
Brady was him too.
you got the mic, Mr. O.
And he divorced his broad and got a new one.
He divorced her. She divorced him and got pregnant by a karate teacher.
Hold on.
I'm good.
We're not. I want to talk about Tom Brady. I don't want to talk. I want to move the mic because there's people waiting that didn't even get a chance to speak yet. And Mr. O has been real patient about it. What's going on, bro?
What's going on? What was the question again, Hood Conservative? You said about angry women.
Well, yeah, the whole thing today was about young, angry women, but now we've just kind of gotten into this whole thing about the nature of modern women and all that. But where do you stand on this whole thing?
Well, to answer the question about angry women, I mean, hoes mad. What was they mad? They put themselves in a corner. They mad they fall for all these so-called equal rights, all these give me that's and everything, which is cool. It's cool. But now they want the dudes from the 1950s, but they don't themselves want to go back to the 1950s. So to the point of what American Man said, they are asking for toxic patriarchy to make a comeback.
Well,
Me myself,
look,
personally, I'll give it to him. I mean, I ain't got no shame in my game, but a lot
did,
of
did you
guys won't feel the same way.
did you hear what the women in Germany are saying?
Say that again.
No. Tell
The
us what's
yeah. So the women in Germany, after voting to have migrants in, and now being told that okay, since these migrants are not here, you have to get with them. They're saying, nah, we don't want to get with them. We're not attracted to them. In fact, send them back.
well.
But are you
They've
saying
hit
only
peak.
women voted on letting the migrants in?
It's well,
Yeah, yeah.
women
They
mostly are left wing voters, and so when it's the left wing encouraging all this immigration,
But
so de facto, women are encouraging immigration.
but men
yes, I
control
agree.
the left
But
wing,
hold on,
right?
but
Like
hold
if you
on.
even look at the
But
left wing in America, right?
That's not how
You're
that
talking
yeah,
goes.
about Chuck Schumer. You're talking about
okay.
what's the other dude? Gavin Newsom. You're talking about a bunch of men that still
Okay.
control this other side. Ayo,
I
He's using the
guarantee you.
woman's argument.
Right. Listen.
So
Who do you
wait,
think?
hold
Who do you
on.
think wins the arguments? Gavin Newsom or Gavin Newsom's wife? Who do you think really
Not only
wins the
that, but
arguments
not
there?
only that, who controls the party? The leaders of the party or the constituents?
men.
Right. No. They actually have to answer to their female voting base, which
The
is the hugest chunk of their
yeah,
base.
white women are the biggest demographic voting bloc of the Democratic Party. But hold on, I think you missed my point. My point was that the German women are now
But
complaining
black
about
women
the.
are the backbone.
Go ahead.
Of the Democratic Party, yes, voted 92%.
No, you understand in terms of numbers. If you look at the numbers of the voters, like 75 million, out of that 75 million, who has the greatest numbers?
Because
It's white women.
92% of
Yeah, right.
13 million mean 13% means
Yeah,
nothing. You
exactly.
know what I mean?
You don't
Hold on.
understand the world.
I want to get Freeman in here, but I'm gonna send it back to you, American Man. Freeman's Journal. What's going on? You've been waiting real patient here. What do you think about this whole conversation?
Yo, what up, Hood? So to your point about German women, also Germany is trending AFD. So it's not like German women are changing out of nowhere, right? There's definitely a cultural sentiment pushing that way,
Correct.
which women are responding to, right? So, but American Man is right. Don't overcomplicate it, right? They simply want the barbarian. That's it.
I'm vindicated. How many people have vindicated me?
Listen, I'm on your side for the most part too. I think as men, we do because we like logic and we get a bit autistic about some things, and we might try to logic something way too much, way beyond the need of logic. And at a certain point, like we were saying before, sometimes you just got to pull out your sword and cut the knot in half. And that's really the ultimate power right there. You don't necessarily need logic when you have force on your side.
I guess the larger question is, where do men
hold on,
begin
Willie,
to feel inferior?
Willie, let Freeman's Journal wrap up his thoughts, please.
So that is what American men and Western men in general have failed to do. They have failed to harness the inner barbarian, right? That desire to intellectualize and add another layer to it is it's a personal failing of will. Just take it. That's all you have to do. All you have to do is reach out and take it. And I love that quote from H.L. Mencken. Every normal man must be tempted at times to spit upon his hands and start slitting
the black flag. Oh, I thought it was hoist the black flag. That's a different quote. My bad.
I mean, it's
So let me ask you,
splitting throats, right? Yeah.
Do you think most men want to deal with a barbarian?
Oh my God, he doesn't understand.
Willie, you know what? I gotta buy you a steak or something. You need some iron and some testosterone in your diet. This is killing me, Willie.
I in no way feel inferior.
And a cigar. He needs a
women,
cigar.
so I don't feel the need
Guys,
to
he's
make
coming
these
in with
points.
a woman's logic. We
I'm
have to
saying with
this
all
is
the
a
points
woman's
y'all are
logic, so he
making,
doesn't get
right?
it.
I am still in control. That's our difference in opinion, right? I know the BS that comes along with women, but at no point do I not feel like I'm fully in control.
I think Willie, the thing that you're leaving out, and I'm not even disagreeing with your general spirit, but I think what your spirit all is going to run into the power of women enforced by the state. And that's where like the rubber hits the road. And this is why not every man is going to say what you just said, because a lot of men have run into that buzzsaw of women plus the state.
And that's what
And
makes
no man is
Obama
bigger than
great.
Uncle Sam.
Here's the thing,
And that's
right?
what makes Obama great. And
Oh my God.
he figured out a way to exert his dominance
Bro, how
into the
much
How
belief
how
of
much
so?
to
these
get this
women.
guy
How
out of
so,
here? I can't
Mr.
do it.
Willie? You did not sleep through X's class, I see. So tell me, how did Barack Obama wield his masculinity in this fashion? I want to hear this.
Because
By
the
being
overwhelming
gay.
majority, because what swung those elections were women. So he clearly was
Willie
able to
had the
joust.
gay male figure growing up.
It's not even that many gays. It's not even that many gays. If we're
I
just
can't
dealing with
believe,
numbers.
but only because we're black, we're somehow pretending that Obama is a masculine figure, and I hate that for us.
Wait, I'm not
Wild,
doing
The
that.
same
bro.
thing happened with John F.
This
Kennedy.
is
Don't
where the
forget,
cap
the same
comes
thing
in.
happened with John F.
Because I'm
Kennedy.
not
It's
acting
all
like
about the
he's the
looks.
most masculine black man. I'm not. I'm saying he's a black man that had a different mindset than how defeated I hear the arguments from the brothers I'm listening to is. Now he knew he could control them hoes. He knew that.
American man, you
He
know
knew
what?
he could control
I
them
really don't
hoes.
even want to talk. I don't want American
Right.
man. It's all you, bro.
Here's the thing, Willie.
You know how I do, Hood.
I think that you don't understand what's happening, like what's being said here. It's probably above you. It's
One
probably best
level
you
of
don't vote.
control.
It's probably best you don't vote. But what you're saying is just completely inaccurate. Like, I just got to be blunt.
So you
Can
don't
I?
think the female vote
I
was
just
a
have to be
factor in
blunt.
Obama's presidencies?
No, that's not what I'm arguing.
Right. So what are you arguing? What are you
Peace.
arguing? Where
When
am
you
I
when you
wrong?
bring up the female vote, are you saying that somehow the women were attracted to his
I'm
masculinity?
saying
Like, what are
he
you saying?
figured out, yes, I'm saying he figured out a
No.
way to lead these women. He didn't go into it thinking, I
Oh,
can't
you know
control.
what, guys? You know
See?
what, guys?
See?
We're
You
looking at
see?
it from a
This is what weak
forward
niggas
point of
do.
view.
Hood.
He's looking at it from a
It's some
shyster
of us that
point of
know
view.
we're still in control, Hood.
Pay attention.
Right?
He's looking at it from a shyster point of view,
Nah,
right?
not even a
Obama.
shyster point of view.
Here's the thing. Here's the
I
thing
just got
about
a big dick.
Obama. Obama. Oh God. Now I
Yeah.
know you have a micro
Yeah,
penis.
I'm not complaining about these hoes. They will never
You
dictate
think
The,
my
the, the, the
environment.
level of
brother?
projection is incredible here.
Do you want to know something about big dick niggas? We don't say we have big
Pause.
dicks.
Pause. That was wild.
You
But
understand how that works?
Willie, you don't get to hit
You
the pause
understand
button,
how
Willie.
that works?
You do not have access to the pause button after what you
I'm
just said,
just
Willie.
saying I had to use it
Like
in
Hood.
response to what he was saying
Remember what I
about
You
said
me.
didn't
about
have
these
to.
dudes
You
that
didn't.
don't get buns?
Yeah,
What do they project?
you didn't have
Remember
to.
what
That
I
was a
said,
personal
bro.
decision, my nigga.
What the dudes that get buns project is, I don't care what these hoes is talking about. The unbunded, right? That's what I call y'all, the unbunded, right? Like, they're the
The
ones
unbunded.
complain. The unbunded, right? They're the
Yo,
Man, we
ones
need
this,
Pat. Man,
complaining.
him and Pastor would be a good dynamic duo right now. I swear to God,
Yeah, the
Pastor
bunded
somewhere.
is not complaining.
You know,
We know.
I don't usually do bounties over here, but I swear to God, people want to bounty you so bad right now.
The unbunded. Hood,
dude,
I'm being real.
he's a clown everywhere he goes. No
I
one
know.
he's Rashard Richie. When you see he's the
But they all know me
YouTube
though.
version of Rashard
I don't
Richie.
even be knowing who be talking to me half the time, but they
But
all know
you
me.
know, Willie, this is what I think is interesting about your point of view, especially the fact that you brought up Obama in the context of like men and masculinity.
I'm
I think
listening.
that the black culture has been so like knocked off the baseline of like logic and masculine thought that we really think Obama is a masculine figure. And you just tried to argue that women were voted for Obama because he's masculine. Where I think women voted for Obama because he probably reminds them of their gay bestie.
So no,
Well,
you guys
well,
all added the term masculinity. I didn't use that at all. I
Okay.
don't think Obama used his masculinity. I think Obama was a confident enough man to know that these hoes don't control nothing. I will get them all on my time. And I will dictate the change they believe in.
And what
That's the
change did
you
difference.
really think? Hold on. You really think Obama had a vision to change anything, or Obama was controlled by his puppet masters?
I think he promoted a vision that women subscribe to. And I
Well,
think
okay
men,
then.
and I think men that recognize the level of power we have can do that.
So wait a minute. So Obama promoted a female vision effectively.
I wouldn't say that.
You did. You already said it.
I didn't say he promoted
In
a
so many
female
words,
vision.
yes, you have, young
You
man.
already said it.
I said he would get women on his time.
He
I don't think
promoted a
his
vision
time was
women would be okay
necessarily,
with, which is he promoted a female vision.
and that's where you're injecting that. But I'm saying that's not what I was saying.
The words you say mean exactly what I said they mean. He promoted what's effectively a female vision, which is like gay rights, which is the Lilly Ledbetter Equal Pay Act,
Here's
the
the
Violence
problem.
Against Women Act.
So here's
Can
my
I-
Obama was
I
effectively
wanna-
a
Marriage
black
Equality
woman.
Act.
He's
here's
basically
my
a
logical
40-year-old
issue with
black
that,
woman in a
right?
tan suit, and that's what you got.
So here's
I
my
wanted to say
logical
something to you
issue
guys,
about that,
right?
right? When it's a bunch of grown men that want to be
Pay
gay, that
attention.
want to be
Pay
log
attention,
cabin,
guys.
that want to
I'm
be
He
just
log
derailed the
cabin Republicans,
conversation,
right? Hold on, let
He
me
did.
finish. I'm gonna keep it
right?
short.
And now we're talking about
Willie, are you a
women,
communist?
right? Pay attention, right? He came in and derailed the conversation to make it seem as
I
if we
didn't
were
derail none.
bashing
You goofy
women.
started asking me
Pay
questions.
No,
I
no,
attention,
no,
answered
no,
the
no.
guys.
question.
Willie, are you a Marxist? Do you believe in
Bitch ass nigga.
Marxism?
I didn't
He's
derail
who they
nothing.
said. He's
I
the
showed
guy.
you what masculinity is. You're not that.
By pointing
Nobody
out
wants to ask you
You are
nothing.
masculine, sir.
by bringing up Obama, that's how you
I
showed us.
consider you to be on the same level with my 12-year-old daughter. I don't know what you're talking about, sir. I don't consider you masculine. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm
Are you
saying
a
there's a
Nothing
group
Marxist,
of
about
Willie?
you
men, a
screams
bunch of niggas want to
masculine.
ask amongst men.
Hold on, Mr. O,
Right.
you're trying to ask a question. I want to give you the space to ask it clearly.
I was just trying to ask Willie, was he or believes in a Marxian ideology
See?
or
You
philosophy?
want to ask
I'm
Willie a
just
question.
asking.
Go ahead, brother.
You the star, bro.
I ain't hear you. Go ahead, brother.
I was
Right.
asking, do you believe in the practices and the
Derail it.
ideology of Marxism? Because the tactics that you are using, or if not no tactics at all, the disposition that you are displaying is rooted in Marxism. The roundabouts, the red herrings, gaslighting. I just wanted to make sure that I know my adversary. That's all. Do you
Now,
believe in
see where I
Marxism?
disagree with that, though? These are.
It's a yes or no question before you say anything
No,
else.
it's not.
It literally
So if
is.
it's
Are
got to
you
be
or
that
are you
simple,
not?
I'll
It's
say
a yes
no.
or no.
So if it's got to be that simple, I'll say no. And the
No.
reason why I'm saying no, these are ideals in a capitalist, Western. Y'all always say Western, right? That's not Marxism. That's not communism, right? So that's why I'm saying no. I don't agree. This isn't a Marxist ideology.
Man, you have no power, Willie. I could tell.
Oh, I
You have
got power.
no power. You
I got
cannot
power.
tell your woman what to do. You cannot direct her to do anything. You a sharing ass nigga. I could
What would
tell
make you
in your
believe that?
voice.
What would make you believe
I
that?
could tell in your voice.
So I'm
We can
saying as men,
all
right? Are you married?
tell.
Are
So
you
I could
married?
tell you be sharing.
Are you married?
Yes, sir. Do you
All right.
understand? Yes. And let me tell you something, Willie, because you know me. So you can pretend in front of conservative and them because you
I
think that
think you fear
they
your
don't watch the
woman's
same
power. I
channels.
don't.
Guess what,
I
sir?
don't fear
My
my
daughter
woman's
is
power.
my
I am
daughter is on
always
the
in
honor
power.
roll. What are you talking about, nigga? You're
That's
a
fantastic.
loser.
That's
You're a
fantastic.
loser.
All right,
So my
let's
kids
not
aren't
make
on
it
the
a
honor
personal
roll as
fight too
well.
much. Let's try to keep
Wait,
it
wait,
off
wait,
that
wait,
personal
wait.
fight.
See, this was some real bitch ass shit y'all just watched, right?
Wait.
Now because your kids are in
Woman
the
ass nigga,
honor roll,
boy.
my kids
Hate
aren't
these
on the honor
niggas,
roll.
man. I never said that.
I'm
I
not
would
out here
love for your
complaining about
children to
these
make the
hoes.
honor roll.
I believe they're
I
actually
would love
inferior
for
to you.
your
You don't.
children to make
You
the
don't.
honor
You don't
roll.
believe women are inferior to you today. That's the difference between me and you. I ain't complaining about these hoes. You are, right?
Do
You
you think
think
women should be
they're
voting,
in
Billy?
some place of
When did you ever hear
superiority.
me complain?
Bro, all you
Hold
do is
on, no.
complain.
There's a difference
You
between
said I know you.
complaining and
All I've ever
making
heard you do is complain about women.
a statement, sir.
You said I know you.
Because you're a
All I've ever
simp.
heard you do
Because
is
you're a
complain about women.
simp. Because you're a simp. And you hear criticism of a woman because you do not have the correct, your
I'm 10 times
genitalia
more
does
toxic
not
than you,
protrude
right?
enough
My
for
women call
you
me
to be
Big
able
Daddy Pimp
to have
Stick
a
Mr. Hustle
criticism
Stack
of
Money.
women.
That's what all my
You
women
call
call me.
me, oh, you're complaining about women. No, sir.
You're not
I'm just
listening.
far ahead of you.
I'm way
You
more toxic
married the
than you.
first fat chick you could find.
Nah, my wife ain't fat. You want to see a picture?
No, I don't.
I know
No,
you don't.
thank you.
Because you know my wife bad.
No, I
So that
don't.
was
I
just a
don't know
bad
you
argument.
or your wife, bro. But I don't want to see your
So
wife.
why
I'm
did
good.
you
I don't want to see your wife. I'm
insert that
good, bro.
argument? That's whole shit. You
No,
inserted an
because I'm
argument
telling you,
you don't
bro,
really
you're
want to have.
corny. You're corny. You're a nigga from the Bronx.
Because you a
You're a
bitch.
nigga from the
To you.
Bronx that
Now
want
I'm
to
from
act
Harlem,
like
baby.
you got something
Now I'm from
going
Harlem,
on,
baby.
and it's Brooklyn all day here,
You
nigga,
know
and you
everything
know
about
it.
me. I know
And
nothing
you
about
know
you.
it.
That
Nigga, you
shows dominance.
lying. You came
That
up here
shows
because I
masculinity.
was here.
I don't even know
You
who
came up
you
here
are.
because I was here.
BK
Shut
in the
up, nigga.
house.
You came
Shout
here
to
because I
Uptown.
was here. You wasn't here because you know why you're here, and we all have
Hey,
the
yo, Hood,
receipts.
talk to him, man. Do
Everyone
we
on this
rock out,
panel
Hood?
know that you and I
Hey,
have
yo,
had
Hood, do I
multiple
pop out from time to
interactions,
time?
bro. You stupid. And guess what?
Listen, man, a lot of
I'm
you
gonna make
niggas is
sure this
hoes.
get reviewed on Bob
A lot of
channel
you
to where
dudes
you say you
think
don't
that
know me.
women are in a
Right?
better
All the channels
position
you
than
be
you.
at, bro,
And that's
I'm gonna
why
make
you
sure it get
complain about them.
reviewed. You saying you don't
I ain't
know me.
complaining about these hoes. They will never
You know,
be in a
this is
more
what kills
dominant
me
position
about
than me.
this is what kills me about the him niggas, right? We will bring up an
Timothy
argument
Hernandez.
based on facts and data, have all types of arguments to buttress the point, bring up video evidence to buttress the point, bring up statistical realities to buttress the point. And we're up here talking about this, and then the nigga Willie gets up here and says, "You niggas just crying about hoes."
Right.
That
Because
is
I'm
the
saying,
that is like the full extent of your
because I'm
understanding of
saying,
the
Hood,
shit.
if these were the arguments that were being prefaced to me, I would respond to them differently. Right? But when niggas is saying, oh, you just subscribed, I'm way more toxic than any of y'all on the panel. All my women
I
call
don't think
me
you as toxic as
Big
me, sir. I
Daddy
bathe in
Pimp Stick,
toxic masculinity.
Mr. Hustle Stack Money. That's what they call me.
And now it turns into the classic black male dick measuring thing. I'm more
Yep,
toxic.
here we go. Let's play that game. Go ahead.
Listen, you know what? I'd rather
Roll it
watch
out.
studs. You know
If
what?
I
I'm
don't
just
see
gonna
any
watch the
1040s, you ain't doing
studs.
Stack
shit.
Money. That's who you
If I
talking
Hood,
don't
to.
see no
Hood,
1040s,
Hood.
nigga.
Remember something, right? I said just for you and I to have a conversation and work through something. I never
Hey, yo,
said for
who
the
laughing?
panel.
You
Remember that?
did. But I dropped the
I
link and it
never
was an
said for
open
the
door.
panel.
But yeah, and I'm tempted to kick everybody off again. But hold
I
on.
never said for the panel, bro. I
Hold
said
on.
for you how to work through something. That
I
was
want to
it.
take a minute. I want to take a minute to just witness my all-time favorite people in the world, which are black studs. I love them hoes.
You're welcome.
What the hell y'all studs out here doing today?
The 100 Stud Movement.
And what that mean?
It's 100 of us coming together, mass presenting women. We also have trans men It's a sisterhood, a stutterhood, a brotherhood, and we coming together to create financial literacy and a legacy for our family and friends.
Oh shit,
Salute to
that's
the
Willie.
studs.
So, what's the most important message you want to
A
give?
stutter what? She said what? A
Most
stutter
important
what?
message I want to give is
A stutterhood. Yeah.
Oh, that's
America
Willie.
is a stutterhood.
Yo, Willie, you
Brotherhood and
made
a
it, baby.
stutterhood.
I'm proud of
Hey, yo, the
you.
stutterhood is wild.
Yo, Willie, you look good up there, baby. You made it. I'm
No,
proud of
but
you.
see,
Hey,
the
I
difference
had to send
between
this to
me and
you.
you believe these hoes when they say what they say. I don't believe them. That's what your argument is based on. That's why you believe they're these strong women you believe.
Who said anything about them being strong? That word was not used at all tonight.
Jesus
Not even as a
Christ.
joke. Not even in jest.
No.
Anyway, back to the stutterhood.
always stay true to who you are. Never let no one change you. It's okay to be a mass presenting woman. It's okay to be a trans man. It's okay to be you. Just have that motion, stand in line, stand in front of it, mean what you say what you mean, and just stand on that. Y'all see us in the background? We representing who we are as people because we love ourselves. And it's deeper than rap, man.
We got the hottest, we got the hottest, we got the woo.
Didn't I tell you they always look like the worst niggas out the ground?
I was just about to say that.
I don't know what it is about the stud thing. They always look like the shittiest niggas that you never want to hang out with. Well, anyway, you know what, American man, you opened up this floor, so I'm gonna let you close the argument because I don't know. Willie ran it. It's getting late anyway, so you got the floor, American man. You can take it home.
Yo, Hood, my bad, bro. I just want to say my bad, bro.
Nah, nothing to apologize for. This is the problem with doing live shows with the public. Sometimes things go left and you just got to navigate. But you got it, bro. We're gonna run this down in a minute because it went over time.
Listen, all I was pointing out was look at the men that the Western women are bringing in and saying these are the men that we need here in our country.
And not just America, the West, across the board. Canada, Europe, Germany, Switzerland, France, Spain. Oh my God, Spain is
just look at the men that women are saying these are the men we need here.
You know, one thing I think was interesting that Willie did bring up, but I don't think he quite understands what it means when he was talking about the black men voting and not seeing a place for them in the right wing. And I told him, black men are uniquely like the only group of men that seem to vote with their women, which would mean that, black men are voting for their own replacement as well.
Yes. Yep. And do you know what his response to that was? What's wrong with that?
Yeah. He's gonna be him no matter what.
That's why I had to ask him, was he a Marxist? I mean, socialist, communist, and Marxist had the same ideology.
But I say that to say, right? In closing, I'm going to close now. I say that to say American men that are American, black, white, Hispanic descent, you might have to smack Keisha a little bit because that's what he's looking for.
Only
that's
Keisha?
why she wants these
that's
guys.
Still a little racist, bro. Just Keisha?
Well, see, listen.
You gotta throw Karen in there too, American man.
Right? But when I say Keisha, I actually mean all of them. Like all of them. You might have to do a little backhand because look.
I hit a woman for the first time in my life, and I'm having fun.
Like that?
That's all I'm saying, guys. I'm telling you, just pay attention. Look at what's happening in front of you. Just look.
You know, I gotta say something. I'm gonna drop everybody. I'm appreciate this because I don't want everybody to carry this next statement. And thank you, American man. You actually sponsored the panel tonight, so we're gonna blame half of this on you. But shout out to American man for opening up the conversation to everybody else. And now that you ended with that point about putting the hand of God down, let me just say this here, and we're gonna end on this note. And American man, you reminded me of something. I remember long time ago, had some DV-ish issues in my lifetime. You know, there's a story I'll tell you. I'll tell that story in detail some other time. But had some DV-ish issues on my record, and I was surprised at the reaction of women when I told them about it. And not only did I tell them about it, I was like, and I am not sorry. That bitch deserved it. I don't give a fuck what nobody say. I'm not sorry. And none of the hoes blinked. Not a one. They was like, oh, well, hey, it's what it is. And I was, the first time around, it was a surprise. The second time around, it's still a surprise. The third time around, I was like, damn, these bitches are into that shit. It's something that you can't really understand until you're there. And I'll end with this. And this is one of the things that actually it disappoints me greatly about women. But this is the reality of women, right? Abusive men are never lonely. Never. There's always a bitch in their bed. You guys, thank you so much for watching. I will catch you guys the next time. We're going to end this on that note. We've said and done a lot tonight. It goes Miss Cantrell with its empathy. I don't know what it is, all right? All I'm saying is they don't flinch when you tell them about it, all right? But that's a like maybe we'll get to the full conversation another night. But I'm just saying it's a thing. It's a thing. And as Western men, we've been kind of conditioned to think otherwise about that. But something in the physical body of women, remember I said it's like living as prey, but something in the physical body of women, it has a counterintuitive reaction to that, No abusive man is ever lonely. Abusers always got a warm body in their bed. And it took me a long time to just accept that reality. But it is what it is.
I hit a woman for the first time in my life, and I'm having fun.
Get back in the kitchen.
Gentlemen, it's been a great conversation, but we are going to wrap this up right here. I thank you all for coming up tonight. And once again, thank you to American Man for the initial drop to open up the show. Shout out to everybody else who supported the show. I think I actually I might have missed a couple of super chats, but shout out to Harambe with the $4.99. He said, these hoes are demonic. I won't even argue with you on that. That's actually biblical. When the fallen angels came down to earth, they taught these women magic spells and makeup and shit. I'm telling you, they learned that shit straight off the vine. And then Rational Daz with the $2 said, first principles, blank slate, most wicked lie. Yeah, there is no blank slate. Men are men, women are women. And we have our natures tattooed on our souls, just as biological creatures. We can try to break the mold, but that's all we would be doing is breaking our natural mold. Thank you once again for listening and enjoying the show. I'll try to come back in the morning with another conversation. It gets hard bringing up interesting topics every day. I might just talk about relationships every single day like all these other Black channels. Time to get my bag up. But you guys have a great night. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. And I guess we're done.
Aspiring to be patriarchs like what white men have, that isn't freedom. That isn't going to help anybody. It's certainly not going to help Black people.
It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done.